Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Movies, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by special guest, Sal Rodriguez.
Thank you, Jason.
Now, thank you, Sal, for joining me on another fun episode of Let's Talk Movies.
Oh, yes.
Because, Sal, I knew you would be a good fit for this particular episode with your history and love of horror, thriller horror, and your doll collection. Sorry, collectibles.
Whoa, slow down there. I'm a grown-ass man, you know.
I'm kidding. No, I think this is going to be a lot of fun because we're going to get into a classic franchise that has a ton of sequels and remakes, and that is Friday the 13th, 1980, just rewatched. So good, Sal. 1980, can you believe it? This franchise goes way back, almost in the 70s.
And you know, Jason, you got me thinking about this franchise because normally, you know I'm a horror fan, but I've told you before, I actually enjoy a supernatural element. I don't just like people killing people. It's got to be a supernatural element. And the truth is, I think people don't talk about it much, but there is indeed a supernatural element.
A little bit.
In Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
Yes.
Booyah.
Oh,
great poster.
Nice.
Please describe this poster, Sal.
Oh, well, it's a silhouette, right? Hard to see from here, actually.
But there is a silhouette, have a knife in the hand. So the poster's
and then
view,
a campground,
a campground. It's
you know,
a great
Jason,
poster.
When this movie came out, I was actively going to summer camp every year.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah.
And then it stopped.
No, well, this movie was to summer camp with Jaws, was to the beach.
Yeah, there you go. Camps are closing. No one's going.
Go turn around. Turn that station wagon around.
Kids don't want to go to camp, turns out. So the reason I watched this movie was because I have been building this collection of film on Apple, like when they have these sales, like movies are going on sale for like $4.99, and I wait. Yeah. And I've been building this collection. A lot of times they come with special features, a lot of cool things, because I am a minimalist and my DVD collection is nothing except for the movies that I, directed and produced, and the Blu-ray's gone too. I only have one Laserdisc that you gave me, which was Jaws 2, and I have no Laserdisc player. But it's more of a collector's item. I dig it, and thank you. But I've been building this thing up. I almost have 500 movies now, and I don't have a lot of like classic horror. That's what I would call this. I mean, I have American Werewolf in London, of course, but that's such a great movie. It's not just defined by that genre. Yeah. So this popped up. I was like, oh my gosh, I used to have such a love affair with Friday the 13th. Not to mention my name is Jason. And the killer in the franchise is Jason. So there was that tie-in. But we'll get into that. So I hadn't seen this movie, Sal, in 30 years at least. Okay?
Hang on, Jason. Your mother's name isn't Pamela, is it?
Well, Patricia.
Hey, close.
Yeah. So anyway, I put it on. Now, the version I bought was the uncut version, no pun intended. Uncut version, and it just said some of the scenes were a little bit longer. I was like, well, okay, not that I'm going to remember the original. So I watched it last night to prepare for this episode, and I really enjoyed it, Sal, and I can see how this, although I can't say it's totally an original, this comes after Halloween, obviously, and also after Psycho. It has elements of both, I think, in different components. Yes. But the killer, well, I don't want to, we'll delve into that, but it was just like, wow, they made a lot of original choices, and you can see that some of the choices in this movie, some of the shots, some of the scares, definitely lived on in other movies. And not just Friday the 13th.
No, but Jason, something that people, you just now brought it to my attention when you bring up Psycho. One thing that makes this movie, I guess, extra creepy is not only that we have murders, innocent people being killed, but there is it touches on the inappropriate relationship, like Psycho, between mother and son. Possible inappropriateness. Jason, just the other day, there was some football player, he won some game, and he's on the field, and his mother came and she jumped up on him and hugged him, and they were criticized that it was an inappropriate hug delivered by a mother to her son. So inappropriate parental relationships just bring on that creepy factor.
Right. It's true. Yeah, I hadn't seen this, like I said, in several decades, and I'm thinking, wow, you see the Halloween aspects, not to mention the music at times, and also other times it sounds like psycho music and the mother-son relationship dynamics, not to mention who the killer is in this movie is also
spoiler.
very unconventional, but we'll delve into it. So I'm going to give you the synopsis because it's been a while since you've probably seen this. And for our fans, I highly recommend delving back in the 1980, but we're just doing a quick, broad strokes, just rewatched. But here is a synopsis. A group of camp counselors trying to reopen a summer camp called Crystal Lake, which has a grim past, are stalked by a mysterious killer. And yes, it's all about Crystal Lake. That is the famous or infamous campground, which is actually in New Jersey, Sal. So not too far from me, but it definitely looks and feels Pennsylvania, New Jersey, but that's where it's at. I could drive there to camp if there is a Crystal Lake. Actually, it's not. They filmed at some other camp. But that's a pretty spot on synopsis.
Jason, sorry, the lake itself is not near you.
Well, it's in New Jersey. It's an East Coast.
Okay, so you could go
movie.
visit it.
I could drive there. Yeah.
Oh, you have to.
Okay.
You have to do on location now.
I'll be right back. Come with me, camera. Yes, I have to. Now, it was released May 9th, 1980. Of course, the genre, horror, mystery, thriller. Okay. Heavy on the horror. And directed by Sean S. Cunningham, who would later do Spring Break, which I remember that movie as a kid, and Deep Star 6. Picking some highlights out here. Written by Victor Miller and Ron Kirk. And the composer, and it's a really good, I think, sound, score, I would say, Harry Manfredini. And he also did the music for House, Deep Star 6, along with Cunningham, and the Omega Code. So some other movies, but definitely accomplished composer. And the cast at the time, Sal, all unknowns. And this movie's budget was low for what it is. And all unknowns. However, one of our cast members turned out to be a big actor. What? Still working today.
What?
And I always knew this trivia. I didn't know it at the time, but 5 years later, it's like, oh yeah, blah, blah. That's one of his first movies. Not his first, because he was in Animal House first. But definitely yes. After that.
Yes.
And that, of course, is Kevin Bacon.
And I'm 2 degrees. And you're like 1 degree.
1 degree, I met him.
You're 1 degree. So you know what?
Yeah.
No, okay, how about this then? You're 1 degree. I'm 2 degrees, but I'm 2 degrees from 2 different people. Nice.
That's pretty good. That makes you 4 degrees.
No, it makes me negative 2 degrees.
No, sorry. So here's the cast. So, of course, Kevin Bacon, he plays Jack. He's not the main guy, but he's like the good-looking guy. And you could just tell, like, wow, this guy's got the chops. Animal House, he was great. Thank you, sir. May I have another? He also has one of the best deaths in the movie. I think the best, most memorable death.
Wow.
So we'll talk about that. He would go on to be in Footloose, Hollow Man, Mystic River, The Woodsman, and so many more movies. Incredible actor. I've always loved Kevin Bacon. So here's who else is in the movie. Betsy Palmer plays Miss Voorhees.
Yes.
Rest in peace. We lost Betsy Palmer. In May 29th, 2015. She passed away at 88. Good run. She was, I read, Sal, that she really didn't like her role and then learned how to embrace it and then fell in love with the role. And, of course, it was a famous role for her. She kind of looked familiar to me. A lot of these people did not in this movie. A couple here and there.
Well, Jason,
also... Yeah,
Jason, let me just pause you on Betsy Palmer.
Please.
If I'm not mistaken, she had a career prior to Friday the 13th, so for her this was almost a reboot
that's
on
exactly
her career,
right?
Didn't she have a career maybe in the 50s and 60s?
Yes, and so sometimes it's like, I'm doing this now, and then this thing turns out to be what it is, and then it's like, I love this. This is I'm really popular. I'm sure she went to conventions.
Yes.
I mean, she got a lot of play out of this. She passed away in 2015. This comes out in 1980, and it's a cult classic out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because we'll get into the sequels. They started banging those out rapidly.
They did.
So then we also have just a couple cast members. Adrienne? How do you say that name? Adrienne?
Adrienne.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, like Rocky.
Yeah.
Adrienne.
Okay, that's what I thought, but it's longer. Okay. Adrienne King plays Alice. Now, she would reprise her role. She's one of the only people that makes it, quote unquote, makes it. There's also Jeannine Taylor. She played Marcy. And Robbi Morgan played Annie. Now, there also was an interesting character. I didn't really pay much mind, but Bill was played by Harry Crosby. And he is the son of one Bing Crosby.
Wow.
I did not know that until tonight. And then you brought this to my attention. There is a young Jason in the movie. To be clear, the killer in Friday the 13th, the original, is not Jason. Spoiler alert. Hey, this movie came out in 1980.
Yeah.
But it was played by whom, Sal?
Oh, that's Ari Lehman, who bills himself to this very day, bills himself as first Jason. He played young
He's like Kid Jason.
Yeah, Kid Jason. And he's there in the history books, along with the Kane Hodder's. We have Ari Lehman, the first incarnation of Jason.
Do you have those history books? The Friday the 13th
I do. They're right
books?
behind me. They're somewhere.
Can you pull those down?
Somewhere in here.
No,
It's
because
near,
it'll
it's
knock
near
the
the
Halloween
Rolodex.
books over. I just the Hellraiser books. The Hellraiser books will come.
It's near the
down.
mental Rolodex, somewhere in there.
Yeah, okay. So speaking of Kane Hodder, when we get into the Jasons, when it's more Jason is the killer and he's like big and strong and he wears what, Sal?
He wears the now famous and iconic hockey mask.
The hockey mask. That is correct. So that is played by Kane Hodder and oddly enough, I just thought of this before we went live.
Yeah.
A dear friend of ours, he started as an intern with me and my company, Connell Creations, and also helped out with the United Film Festivals, was a production assistant on 5 of my docs and the one narrative I produced. Derek Dennis Herbert.
Oh, yes.
Directed a documentary about Kane Hodder in 2017 to Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. Because he has a whole other story, which you were talking to me about before we came on. So I highly recommend people checking that out, the documentary, which definitely shows clips of him as Jason. But I hadn't even thought about that before we got into this episode.
But I will tell you this, Jason. I am happy and proud to tell you that I was one of the backers, one of the many backers of To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story.
I think I was too.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll just say that I was. I think I was the main
Just
backer.
put it in post.
Whatever. That's great, man. Yeah, I know he did a Kickstarter, as people did, and they still probably do, but definitely back in this era. Anyway, that's cool. So it all comes full circle, Sal.
Yes.
It all, as I knock over the iPad, it all comes full circle, Sal. But now I just want to quickly go through the other titles because there are a lot of sequels, like I talked about, and reboots. And so I think we just ping pong back and forth, starting with the original, and we'll say the year and anything that comes to mind. If anything comes to mind, because there was a time, Sal, that I was just an evangelist for this franchise, and then one day it was over for me.
Yeah. Wait,
so
what?
I'm
it was
revisiting
over for
something.
You?
I was out. And
because
I'll
something
that.
happened?
Well,
Okay,
no,
we'll get to that.
yeah, we'll get to that. So here we go. Number 1, this one right here, the one we're here to talk about, Friday the 13th, 1980.
Followed by Friday the 13th, Part 2 in 1981.
I will be watching that one next. I'm revisiting these early ones.
Well, this is where we start to see the marauding Jason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then we have Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D in 1982. Sal, I saw it in the theater in 3D.
Yeah, with the spirit gun coming out.
I just sneak in.
Wait, at this time we're wearing the blue and green, right?
Blue and red.
Blue and red. Okay, the blue and red 3D glasses. Now let me ask you this, Jason. Did you have to pick up those 3D glasses at 7-Eleven?
No, they supplied them.
At the movie theater. Okay, did they ever have that in Oklahoma where you had to get the latest 3D movie releases glasses at like AM, PM, or 7-Eleven?
I think that did happen. We didn't have AM, PM, but we did have 7-Eleven. We had Quick Trip. I think that did happen. Well, this one in particular, Sal, I wasn't old enough to see it without an adult. So we went in to see another movie.
What?
Two for Benji. And then we went like... But we had to get the glasses. So we had to pull like Sly. Like,
like distraction.
Distraction. Yeah, we had to start a fire. And then we had to go. No fires. Okay, please continue.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter, 1984.
I also saw this one in the theater. Corey Feldman was in it.
Yes.
I loved this one. I think it was a real high note. I remember the theater I saw it at, the Annex 7, which I would later work at in Tulsa, Oklahoma, since gone. And this is where I departed. I thought it was a good place to bow out. You call something the final chapter, and I have run its course. I was like, wow. Not many movies had sequels besides James Bond. You know, even Star Wars stopped at 3. So this to me was like, wow, a little one extra. This is great. But no, Sal, it didn't stop there. Because then came Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, 1985.
Wait a second. They just called the previous one the final chapter. How can they call this
This is one I knew they're never going to stop. That's
it's never going to end.
It's never going to end. Never going to end.
That's funny. Then comes Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, 1986. Now, this one, Jason, I do not remember at all what happens in this one.
I love the title. I love the Jason Lives.
You're right in there.
This poster, I love that. Yeah. I don't either. New Beginning, I remember starting to do the eye rolls. I'm becoming a teenager. It's like, nyeh.
Oh, no, wait, Jason, I remember that. Was it New Beginning where that other guy was portraying?
Something, yeah, playing Tom. Yeah,
like an imposter.
You have to start like figuring it out. It's kind of like Scream. Because you start to push the envelope, try new things. So I have no recollection of Jason Lives either.
You've tuned it out of your memory bank.
Yeah, if I even saw it. So then came Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, 1988. I can honestly say I never saw The New Blood. By now, I'm long gone from the franchise.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened in this one. But yeah, looking at the dates, they really banged them out, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And then?
Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, 1989.
Dun, 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 dun. I loved it. Great title and one of the best trailers, I must say. It's an incredible trailer. I did actually love this one. It was a one-off for me. And it was a time, Sal, that people were taking Manhattan. The Muppets took Manhattan. Home Alone 2. He was lost in Manhattan, lost in New York. Yes. You know, King Kong also took Manhattan. They just didn't put it in the title.
I think he was the originator. You also
mentioned he was the originator.
He was the originator of taking Manhattan. One of my favorite films, Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee.
Oh, so
1989 in New York. As a West Coaster, this is around the time New York starts getting put on the map for me.
Yeah. Well, there's also the movie Manhattan that was incredible by Woody Allen, which I love. So Woody Allen took Manhattan before most, and then Annie Hall was all, pretty much 90% in New York, and won Best Picture, one of the only comedies to do so, maybe the only comedy to do so besides The Apartment, but neither here nor there. You also mentioned Godzilla. Didn't he take Manhattan? Wasn't he running loose with the Empire State Building there?
I don't remember Godzilla.
The one with Matthew Broderick he did, so I know that.
Well, okay, look, Jason, as many Friday the 13th as there are, there's so many Godzilla, so we'll have to go through.
Yeah,
we're gonna go through
them.
Yeah. At some point in time, you and I go through the Godzilla saga.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so then this is when it really jumps the shark, I would say. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, 1993.
Well, they said
they're
final.
They're putting the final Friday on there? Oh, my gosh.
No, so they're saying officially it's the final Friday, so it must be. Everybody.
Not so fast. Not so fast.
I don't remember this one at all. Jason Goes to Hell, and what does he meet? Satan? What happens here?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Salta, what comes next?
Jason X, which is Jason 10 in 2002.
Yeah, they didn't even bother saying like it's a new Friday, all right, a new Friday blood. So I have no idea what happens in these.
Oh, this is the one where Jason.
Friday.
I know what happens.
You
here.
know?
I do because I have the figure.
Oh,
a lot of figures have led me back around to the motion pictures. This is the one where Jason winds up in outer space. He's in some sort of chamber, gets revived. He's in like a cryogenic chamber, gets revived, and we have Jason marauding a spaceship in space.
You're kidding.
That's what happens.
That really happens?
Yes, Jason in outer space. That's what happens.
Just call it that. That's a great title.
Jason in outer space.
Jason takes space.
Takes
out of space. Goes out of space. All right, so then comes something that's just like the old classic saying from Happy Days would be...
Jump the shark.
This is so far over the shark. It's not even funny.
Ah, yeah.
Freddy vs. Jason, 2003.
Of course, Freddy Krueger is who that is.
Freddy Krueger from the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Sal,
Yes.
I don't even know where this begins to make sense. I want to be in the Key and Peele should do a skit about how this was pitched in the writer's room because, like, what we should do? And they're just like, nah, and it works. So they've got Freddy. And they don't join forces. Like, that would make even more sense to me. Like, let's kill everybody. No, they want to off each other. Like, is there a winner? Like, I don't even know. Don't tell me, because I haven't seen it. And if I have enough stamina, maybe I'll get here. But I don't think I'm making it past 4. I really don't.
No. You know what the problem is? Like, I agree with you that they should team up, right? They should team up and maraud together. But what happens is, it's sort of like the public wants them to fight. Like, for example, if there's like a hot female rapper and there's a new female rapper, they want them to have beef. Like, why should they have beef?
Yeah.
Why should they? Why can't they be friends?
Didn't Alien fight Predator?
Well, there you go. Okay, so like they should team up, but instead they make them enemies so that we can have a nice war on our hands.
But these people are just out, just killing people. Just burning down villages and taking no prisoners. They don't want to go against some formidable foe. So now they're doing this. Like, I kind of want to see it. I'm a little bit curious, to be honest with you, because it makes zero sense. And why stop there? It should be like Jason versus Mike Myers.
Yeah.
Not the actor, but I mean the Halloween Myers.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see more. But this stops. But there is one more movie which is more of a reboot, Sal, and that is...
Well, as we see this list, Jason, I have to tell you, I get a little bit depressed because we went from 2002 to 2003, and now the last incarnation we had of this franchise, Friday the 13th reboot, 2009. Nothing's happened since 2009? What's going on here?
It's unbelievable. Did you see that one?
I believe I did. Now, I did remember sitting there, I think I saw this in the movie theater, thinking, oh, come on, when did Jason start bench pressing weights and doing shoulder presses? This is like the buffest Jason that we've ever seen in Friday the 13th reboot.
Is it John Cena or somebody huge?
It might as well have been. It was not much different from the Rob Zombie Halloween reboot where all of a sudden Michael Myers is buff. Like all these guys all of a sudden been pumping up weights like never before.
Well, I don't know. So... there's 12 in all. That's how many we counted. That's how many we read. I am definitely going to watch part 2, part 3 in 3D, although there won't be 3D here probably. I don't have the glasses, unfortunately. And then the final chapter with Corey Feldman. I remember it being very enjoyable. I have not seen 2, 3, and 4 also in maybe 30 years. So I'm going to stop it right there, most likely. I might go back to Manhattan just for fun because I like to take Manhattan and then call it good. But who knows? Who knows? And I'm not doing this in any over the next few weeks. It just kind of rebooted that sense of horror. And this one, Sal, bringing it back to this movie, which I just rewatched. So what I was noticing, Sal, was just it really is clever. It's a little movie. It's definitely indie, guerrilla filmmaking. It feels it. But it works because it's not relying on the actors. It's really relying on the situation and the camera movement. And then you can't help but think, wow, this is 1980. They're shooting in 79. And besides Halloween, and of course Psycho, which was before that, it really was just ahead of its time. And I really appreciate it as a film and the filmmakers. And who we're going to get into who the killer is. It's like, wow, they took a lot of, different choices. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, for what it is, like it's not a romance movie by any means, but I don't know.
But is that the thing? Is that there weren't necessarily any subplots, right?
Not a lot of subplots. In fact, I like a movie that's just streamlined, and I appreciated the how fast it all really happens in a day, right? And so we'll get into the beats, but before we get into that,
yes,
let's get into your collectibles. I want a little show and tell. Then we'll play the trailer, and then we'll kind of hit through the beats of which I experienced just last night.
Sure.
So what do you got?
Specific to the original movie. So there will be no hockey masks yet, unfortunately.
Oh, we should don hockey masks for the next episode.
Well, that'll be in part 3, I believe, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I think so.
Don't get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, original. Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother. And then, of course, we have a young Jason at the end. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie, Jason pops out of the swamp at the end.
Well, he's also in the movie, bits and pieces, drowning.
Okay. Oh, okay. So he's not
before
just
he's disfigured and drowned. He's like, help me.
Yeah. Okay.
So
all right. So we have the young Jason, whether or not he's drowned yet. Yeah. We have the young Jason, and we have Pamela Voorhees. Okay. So first of all, we have a 6-inch action figure of Pamela Voorhees. Can you see that? Oh, I cannot see it.
Go closer.
Let me open up myself. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Oh, that looks good.
So this is...
The likeness is solid. Who made this figure?
This is made by NECA.
Woo.
She does look great on this camera. It's a nice camera.
She looks just like she did in the movie. Yeah, terrifying.
This is her holding a knife. This is made by NECA.
What's her points of articulation there, Sal?
In demand. Now, unfortunately, because she is a classic figure, I will not attempt the articulation today, but we have head articulation, we have shoulder articulation, we have I believe some ankle articulation, but the old NECA figures are very, very stable, so oftentimes won't have much articulation.
Gotcha.
What happened is a company like NECA bowed to the enthusiasts who love articulated figures, so their figures used to have less articulation. Now their figures have more articulation. So this is a classic Pamela Voorhees.
Great. That knife, is that knife sharp?
Look at that.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. It is.
Oh, my God. Blood. You got blood coming out of your finger.
I'm bleeding. Okay,
that's a good figure. Okay.
That is Pamela Voorhees.
And spoiler alert, that is the killer in this movie. I'm going there. I'm throwing it out there. We're already we're more than halfway through this episode.
Good night, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, also by NECA. This came out years later. At the tail end of Toys R Us in the U.S. At the tail end came the Pamela Voorhees. This is called Mego Style.
That looks like a real sweater.
This is called Mego Style. This is real cloth clothing.
Yeah. Also, the likeness is good. Wow.
Well, let me put them together real quick. You see the old and the new.
Does she have a knife in this one?
The old and the new.
They both look great.
There we go. That looks good.
Yeah.
Okay, then
a little more plump on the left. But she's got a bigger sweater.
She came with this.
She's got. Oh yeah, yep. She got the hatchet.
Hatchet in her hand, and there is a thing. She has a thing for a knife. I must have dropped this. She has a holster for her knife. I must have dropped this. But Betsy Palmer, playing Pamela Voorhees, came in a 2-pack with young Jason.
Oh wow!
And there is Jason as he looked. Now I don't think he had a T-shirt on, so they gave him a T-shirt. But he came.
Not, and that says, I believe that's Crystal Lake.
You can take his shirt off, and you have a little cool Jason. Otherwise, he has a T-shirt that says Crystal Lake, and he has all kinds of muck and swampy stuff all over his face.
Yeah, so there's we'll get into that scene shortly. So there's her son, and we'll talk about what happened to him. But those are good, Sal. I'm glad you have those. Thank you for showing them to us. And, wow. See, you are a fan of this franchise, and definitely this particular, the original.
I am. And again, you helped me to realize that there is a supernatural element to our primary character of Jason.
Yeah. So you have more figures, but they're more tied to some of the other titles that we mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
There will be more figures as we discuss subsequent films.
If we do.
But we're doing this. What are you talking about? We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15.
I am not committing to those. I'm committing to like the first few, and then. Okay. So, yeah, great stuff. I'm gonna play the poster now. Play the poster. Let me reset that again.
Nice.
Here we go. Boom. I'm gonna play the trailer now. Relive it. Kind of stoke up some feelings. get a sense of how the style is. Those listening, you'll get a sense of the music. I went through a few trailers. This is the best one I found. It's also in HD. Are you ready, Sal?
I'm ready, Jason.
Okay, good. Give me a second. We'll talk after. Save your comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3,
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4, 5, 6,
Must be my imagination.
7,
Can I help you? Hello?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Wow.
Yeah, great music. Really great music.
Very psycho, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, reminiscent of classics before it, and now it itself becomes a classic.
So as I was watching that again, I love how 13 becomes like a kill count. It's not even the case. It's more of the day of the week. But I got to look and see. Tell me May 9th, 1980 was a Friday the 13th. Tell me that.
No.
Right? It had to have been. It was indeed a
Wow.
Friday.
They
but not
released
the
it on a
13th.
Friday.
Yeah, no.
Wait, it
but
wasn't
not
the 13th?
No, that's what I'm saying. It couldn't have been. So
Oh.
they had to squeeze it out, and then it's probably a small release, and then they rolled it out from there. Yeah, it couldn't have been 13th. It's May the 9th.
You could
So-
definitely see how the way that was shot sort of paved the way for guerrilla filmmaking.
Oh, absolutely. It showed you could also make a successful movie with this. So with the style, campy style, you don't care too much about the people, but you're still vested in survival. Well, that's what I mean. Okay, like the comparison.
No, that's
being,
what I mean by there's no subplot or character arcs.
No,
so they're
it's
just
different.
casualties.
Well, that's why you have a bunch of them, and you slowly lose some, and then it's about like, oh, I attach this person's still alive. I'm attached to them. Can they survive? I want to survive. Yeah. Where Jamie Lee Curtis, you're all into her character in Halloween. You're invested in her. Jaws, of course. Those are three iconic characters. Yeah. And in Psycho, the same, although, you kill the lead in the very beginning of the movie, and that's when it's like, oh, all bets are off. No one's safe in that movie. So that's its own, balance and its own, ideology, and just what it built with Hitchcock was incredible. Well, this isn't at that level, but it's damn good and it's effective. And so I really enjoyed, like I said, the streamlined story. And so we kind of start, though, with a flashback in 1958. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. We need some context. So it's a little bit of 1958, same camp, Crystal Lake, but two counselors they don't even have sex, but that's the plan. And they're offed by, we don't know who the killer is. So that's something else that's happening. We do know who it is, but when you're watching the movie, no clue. It's you don't know the sex, you don't know how many, you just know people are getting like, hey, we weren't doing this, and then it's like a lot of great gore shots, way ahead of its time, right? Way ahead of its time. It wasn't just people dead. Yeah.
Hang on, Jason. Wouldn't you agree, though, were you a detective, were you and I actual detectives, you have those scenes that show potential victims like, hey, how's it going? Like, implying the killer is not intimidating, is not
doesn't
menacing.
have a hockey mask on.
Yeah, it's, might as well be your neighbor. Hey, how's it going, neighbor?
Which makes it even scarier. And even the guy that runs the camp, that he gets killed in the trailer, he's like, oh, hey, so he's like befriended, like, hey, what's going on, Sal?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're dead. So yeah, it's even scarier. It could be your neighbor, it could be whomever, someone's mother. So what happens, though, is we learn that, go ahead and say her name again.
Pamela Voorhees.
But Betsy Palmer.
Played by Betsy Palmer, yes.
Betsy Palmer, so Pamela Voorhees loses her son. He's at the camp. He's not a counselor. He's a kid at the camp. And he's not being watched. He's swimming, and he drowns. Because the counselors were all off doing whatever.
They were fornicating.
Yes. They were smoking grass. They were not focused on the kids. Yeah. He drowns, and she's out for revenge. And she's also a little bit psycho, almost like she has split personalities. Yeah. You know, like there are some great scenes later in the movie, but we'll get to that. So that's what we learn. And then, but we don't know this initially. We just know that something bad happened at this camp in 58. They tried to reopen it, and there's a series of events that keep happening. Like someone started some fires when there was talk of reopening. And so it hasn't been reopened, and now it just says present day, which we know was the 70s. So a good 15 years later, they're going to open the camp again. Mm-hmm. And this person is 15 years older, 15 years more crazy, and begins to take action into her own hands. Now, Sal, I like a streamlined movie, like that movie Nick of Time. You ever see that movie? It's like a real-time movie, or Run Lola Run. It just deals with real-time, Snake Eyes. Those movies, it's like, we're only going to go this far. Well, This is one day and one night, and there are no kids at camp. We are just at the counselor stage. Like, they're coming to camp to help out, help get ready. The kids will be there, and a few days later, I think it's 2 weeks later, and they're off. Like, this begins night one. So it's kind of interesting, like how fast. It's not like there's kiddies running around. They didn't even bring that element in here. They wanted to bring in the teenagers. They'll be fornicating and having fun and doing some, playing strip Monopoly. Take the kids out of it, and we can kill them. We can't kill kids, right? Yeah. So it's really it was smart in that way. But anyway, so I don't know your thoughts before I go on.
Well, no, Jason, you just reminded me that maybe that's why Jason fights Freddy later, because didn't Freddy kill kids?
Freddy killed kids.
Maybe Jason?
And Jason was a kid.
Yeah, Jason becomes the crusader on behalf of kids.
That's true. Maybe he was.
We got to catch Freddy versus.
We got to catch up with that. We got to catch up with that one. Let's just skip to that one. So, what else is going on? So then we do hear one of the counselors talking about a creepy campfire story about what happened about Jason drowning. But it stops there. It's not like, the mother is a psychopath. Well, there he is. Yeah, exactly. He was still innocent in this story. He was. Well, innocent. I mean, just like he was still drowning. It's like, help. And it's really sad. It's like, hey, drowning's terrifying. And there's a lot of counselors, and not one can be watching Jason swim. Like, come on. That's bad counseling. Right?
That's what fornicating does to you.
Well, not everybody's fornicating. They're just absent-minded. And there's also a cool device in this movie, a major rainstorm. it's like it's so torrential, and that kind of keeps people indoors, and there's no reason to really be scared. So you're like, it's pouring down rain. Oh, I forgot to close the windows in my cabin. Let me just go out there, right? And no one knows what's going on yet. So there comes the killer. And then, like I talked about, Kevin Bacon's death scene. So it's the only sex in the movie. Kevin Bacon has sex with this young lady. Some good shots. And you think, oh, my God. And while they're having their moment, it's a bunk bed. They're on the bottom. On the top, we see a corpse. There's like a wide shot. We pull up and we see like a corpse up there who had been already killed by the killer. Okay. Oh. That happened. Blood is dripping down on their bed. They don't notice it at first. It's on the pillowcase, and they kind of notice it. And then as the girl gets up to go to the restroom, a hand comes up and holds Bacon's head down, and then the classic knife through the throat. It's an amazing shot. I remember years ago just getting into film, and they were showing how they did some of these cool shots. I mean, horror shots, but still. Because this is not CG. This is all like legit things. So how they faked it and how Bacon's legs and body were. So some really neat stuff here. Some interesting guerrilla, primitive filmmaking, but genius at the same time.
It's almost to the degree where when you see a murder like this, you're like, is the killer like a Navy SEAL or something? Like how can they have such accuracy?
Exactly. Like, oh, I'm going to go right through here. And have you done this before? These are all new kills.
Yeah, it's like Rambo style almost.
Like Rambo style. Yeah, there's even there's a archery range. And one of the people, some great reveals. You don't see everyone die. Sometimes you just see the reveal how they died. Like a girl opens up a door and then this guy's arrows are holding him to the door through the head. He's dead. But it's like, oh, he died that way. And who's doing this and moving bodies around? So they super strong, and that would happen in later, subsequent versions of Halloween. Alice, the one who does live, there's some great moments with her. Because you start to kind of hang on to her because she's one of the last people, and that's what happens in this type of movie. You don't know her that well, but she does seem pure and innocent. Yeah. And you want to see someone live because that becomes you. Like, oh, I want to live through this. And then she manages
hang on.
to. Oh, please.
I'm sorry, Jason. You brought up a good point. You said something like, "You become her, or she becomes you," but that's where I think what happens here is people should identify with Alice. But what happens here is people begin to identify with the killer, and then later on begin to root for the killer. Oh, yeah. And then you have people rooting for Freddy's, rooting for Jason's, rooting for Michael Myers, and that's the next level of why is that?
Because it's easier. It's less
well, because they're going to make it. You know the killer's going to make it.
I used to always be on the other side of that, feeling like, oh, crap, here they come. So I don't even know how to feel like the killer. If I watch it over and over and over again, yeah, I'm desensitized to it, sure. But I was really caught up in this movie. Like, oh, my gosh, because it's all watching it again and then going back in time and seeing filmmaking at that time. And then you know what the franchise became, right? They're making this movie thinking, hey, just hope this comes out okay. Hope someone sees it. So there's a lot of that at play. I know that it became this huge franchise, that probably needs a reboot or something because you're right.
I think it's time.
It needs to be you could start again and do it really cleverly, or maybe I should see the 2009 version and see if I like it. But anyway, so then we have Bill, the counselor he's the one who's killed with the arrows. Sorry. And then there's Mrs. Voorhees' reveal. And this is great. This is really good. I think the movie just keeps getting stronger and better. A Jeep pulls up, and you think, wow, Alice finally has someone to save her. Although you don't really trust anybody because you don't know who the killer is. But then here's this woman. You showed us her likeness. Show us the likeness again. Without the hatchet or the knife in her hand, she's not the most threatening, more like a nurturing mother, right?
I'm covering up her knife hand.
Yeah. Oh, hey, well, a little creepy. Show me the other one, the bigger, like the sweater. Maybe I would hug. Yeah. Hey, how are you doing? Come on in from the storm. Wait a second. Yeah, hi. But what's that in your other hand? What do you got there? So Alice comes running out when she sees the Jeep and gives her an embrace. They hug. We still don't know it's her, but you're like, and she's like, "Oh, honey, I'm not afraid." And you're thinking, why, this woman's not afraid of much. And then it slowly comes out. And she's good at this, Sal. I don't know if you've seen it in a while, but she can just, almost like she's split personality. Like she's like calm and nurturing to the girl, Alice. And then it's like, and then she flips a switch and starts to go in psycho mode. So like, she's a strong actor in this role. And I think it definitely sells it. Now, is she intimidating physically? No, in fact, Alice keeps getting the best of her. And this cracks me up in this movie. It's like she'll knock her down, but she'll run away to hide again. It's like, if you knock him down, just take care of things right then. Tie him up, stay right there. No, it's like 3 times of like, I gotta get away. And all of a sudden, you're the hunted again, right? So I would never do that. I would stay like right there, pin them down, and call it a day. Because she's not supernatural power. She's psycho, and she'll stop at nothing.
Yeah. There's no supernatural element in the Friday the 13th franchise yet.
Yet.
Yes.
So that's really strong, though. And you need her to keep running. So I get it. Alice is like, I'm distraught. I'm going to go in here now. And then there are some really good scares. She hides in this one room she can't really see, and then you see the doorknob churn, like classic things that you would see so much later, but this is 1980, so we're not even in the that far in the 80s yet, and it's just like, wow, I just forgot it was this old. Like, I remember being at a party, and not my party, like my parents would go to parties because they were very young, 18 and 20 when they had me, so if this movie comes out in 80, I'm 9, okay. And then it's on TV, so maybe I'm 10 or 11. So it's like the party where parents are going to hang out and the kids hang out in the other room kind of thing, because the parents are probably all in their 30s, and they put this movie on. It was on HBO or It or something, and kids are like sneaking, looking when we can, because, we never seen like sex and these killings. And so, they were fascinated to see something they'd never seen, and we were blown away and terrified, Sal. I'll never forget it. Like, I saw snippets that night, but then I would see the whole movie later without my parents around, of course.
Jason, I feel like you and I have talked about this either on the Let's Talk Movies podcast or other podcasts, and
in general,
and that is how horror movies of today just don't have the nudity like they used to. They don't have the sex that they used to.
It's lacking.
Yeah, it's just it's to me, the sexual component was a component of horror films, and this goes back to Psycho too.
Yeah, she's in the shower.
Yeah, but today I feel like it's not as much of a component.
I agree with you. Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, absolutely in the shower. You see some sex. Halloween had elements of that. But you're right about that. It's true. Not that horror is my favorite thing, because it's not. In fact, I'm less supernatural, more realism. Like, show me a movie like Jaws. Like, that's conceivable. That's terrifying. Not, well, this shark was summoned by this being to go. Like, I don't want to know that. I just want to know, like, clean, streamline it.
No, but see, Jason, you know what, though? That is the reason why I like the supernatural element, because to me, then it becomes less believable.
Oh, okay.
If there's no supernatural element, it kind of soothes me. Because, like, come on, a demon, right, But if it's something that could happen, like a shark attack, right?
Yeah.
Like the movie Saw, where people could just kill other people.
That's scary. That's
exactly. The things that could really happen to me are indeed the scariest things, and that's why I like a supernatural element in my horror, so I'm not as scared.
I get it, and I'm totally a believer and a lover of movies like Exorcist, supernatural, but realism's there. Like, oh my God, some people do get possessed, or at least there's history of that happening somewhere in one of those books that you have behind you. But it could happen. So. Or a movie like The Craft, which had elements, which isn't a horror movie, but it kind of is. And I had the writer on the Into the Mystic podcast recently, Peter Filardi, and he also wrote Flatliners, where it's like, I like Supernatural when it's still on that line of like, yeah, this is like riding that line, I believe it. Or the Amityville Horror. I always wanted to believe this house could be possessed. It's when it goes too far and it wants to show you this being every 5 seconds, and it's more of the CG and the filmmaking than the concept. I just get
Jason, speaking of 3D, Amityville 3 3D.
We're going to have to go to Amityville and watch those, because they're not only like classic, but I went back and watched the original not that long ago. And it's like, there are some funny scenes in that movie. Like, oh my God, this movie went there. So yes, good point on the 3D. That was happening a lot in the early 80s. Let's roll it out in 3D. Everyone's going to love it. So anyway, I got off point there, but good conversation nonetheless. Now back to Miss Voorhees. She was indeed seeking revenge on anyone who calls themselves a camp counselor or cook or just works at the camp, because that represents where her kid was killed.
Jason, why should a cook be responsible for the drowning? He's not a counselor. He's just trying to make meals.
She killed the owner of the property.
Oh.
And was her son killed? No, I guess he drowned, but on their watch.
He drowned because you would say he drowned due to negligence, I guess.
Yeah, so I said killed, but definitely there's fault. Yeah. I'm assuming nobody got in trouble, so she took.
Nobody got a manslaughter charge, I'm sure.
Nobody got a manslaughter charge, so she's like, I'm killing everybody. And she flipped a switch. Now, where is his father? I don't know. There's no
Where's
talk.
his dad? Yeah, where's Mr. Voorhees? Yes.
Don't know. Interesting.
Who is he?
Though.
We don't
but
even
for
know who
them
he
to
is.
make it her, it would have been easy to say Mr. Voorhees.
Yeah.
And he's built, and no, you don't suspect her. And I appreciate this movie went there. And she's vulnerable. She gets almost knocked out 3 times. Yeah. And she keeps coming back because she's like a dog in a fight. And then finally, this big ending with Alice, and she swings that axe, or an axe, and literally off with her head.
Well, let me see something just to be clear, Jason. Can you see this? You get a good view? You get a good view?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think.
No. You got to get the other model.
Wait.
No.
I thought her head came off. Wait.
You're gonna break your collectible.
You know what? I thought this particular figure had a removable head. Maybe I'm
Try the other one.
No, I don't want to ruin this one. This one for sure.
Okay.
But what you can see, I don't know if you can see, her neck is cut.
I see that.
Her neck is cut all the way around.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought her head came off.
They were some really good shots. They show the cut, but then sometimes they don't show you too much. So then the movie ends and Alice is alive and the police have come to save her. She's out on a canoe, like falling asleep. Just didn't like after she killed, Miss Voorhees, she goes out on the canoe. But Sal, then there's like a beautiful jump scare. Sal, why don't you describe what happens there?
When you think everything's okay is when it's not okay. So Alice is there floating on a canoe.
Yep.
And then right as you think she's about to be rescued, we have Kid Jason coming out of the water. And coming up from behind her. As a matter of fact,
terrifying.
Speaking of toys, there is a wonderful diorama that features a little miniature Jason and a little miniature Alice on the canoe, and he's coming out. So it's not this, but it is, looks like this.
Yes.
It's a different toy. So yeah, we have Jason coming out and snatching Alice and pulling her right down into the lake.
Well, I think it cuts it early, but it's like, oh my gosh. And then she wakes up. She's talking to police. And it's like, okay, she dreamt that up. There's no way that kid's out there.
It's okay.
Right? The mom's lost her head. The kid's dead. He's not going for revenge of the mother who is going for revenge of him.
Yeah.
But then, as she's she's distraught. She saw people that she cared about die in front of her. She had to save her own life several times. And then they kind of pan in on the water at the end, like, he's still out there. Like she senses something, and we pan into the water and we kill it. Like, wow, they already set the stage for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Because something's out there. Yeah,
something's out there, and we've already seen something they showed us. So is that lurking? Is that what's going on? There's your supernatural, and something's amiss at Crystal Lake, at Camp Crystal Lake, Sal.
You think by this point, Jason, by the time this movie was done and in the can, they realized we need a sequel? You
if
think they thought that?
Weintraub was involved, they would have been shooting 2 and 3 back to back. Yeah, I don't know how fast, but I know it came out the next year.
Wow.
And not that this is a big production with a lot of moving parts and a big, crew or cast, I should say. Maybe it's a big crew, but no, they got the next one out, and they had to write a script. We also have to write a script.
Yeah.
So they banged it out fast. So I think they knew right away, like, you had something special here, and let's move on this. And so, incredible. So here's some trivia, which also talks about the budget. I'll save that for the end, but interesting trivia. Rock star Lou Reed owned a nearby farm where they shot the movie in New Jersey, and he entertained the crew with impromptu performances during production.
Nice.
That's kind of cool. I'd love to see some footage of that.
I know. That'd be
Just
neat.
Lou Reed hanging out, and they're like, "What kind of movie you guys making?" "Well, we don't really know." And then here it is. It's Friday the 13th. In fact, people probably made fun of the name, at the time.
Well,
What
because
is
speaking
this,
of the name, the
Friday the
movie really
13th?
doesn't have anything to do with the date on the calendar, does it?
No, it's just. In fact, it wasn't even released on Friday the 13th.
Not
But
to
it
mention, I don't think the
always-
movie takes place on Friday the 13th, right? There's no
I guess-
indication.
I guess it could. I could go back and look if there's ever a reference, because it just says present day.
Yeah.
But it is all in one day, and they're going to camp 2 weeks early, and they're working on things, they're hammering things, and then they get, stalked and killed. So kind of cool. Now, the composer, Harry Manfredini, used his own voice to create the famous his own voice. Well, who knew that this would turn? He's like, no one's ever going to hear this.
He's like, no one's going to be able to do this the way I can do it.
I'll just do this, and then I'm on to the next gig. Well, here we are, many, 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 many decades later, or many years later, and it still lives on.
Oh, and
Now-
there are, again,
please.
going back to collectibles, I think that there have been some large-size Jason Halloween, and I say specifically Halloween figures for the season, which when you push the button, play that was it music? Sound effect?
That's
What do you call
awesome. That's awesome. Score. Yeah. So here's something funny. So I'm watching the movie last night, and I'm listening, and I'm like, wow, there are moments where it's like, like a violin, like something straight out of Psycho. Even in the trailer I played had a bit of that. Also a little bit of Jaws and John Williams.
that? Yes.
Also
I
a
heard that.
little bit of Halloween score, which was done by John Carpenter, the great John Carpenter. So last night, I get a phone call, and my ringer's on, and my ringer is the great little jingle, I'll call it a jingle, from Kill Bill. Remember that? Like, it's kind of haunting and plays through. So I'm hearing this thing real low because I have the audio really loud, and I'm like, wait a second, is that where that came from too? And then because I kind of faintly heard it, Sal. It was getting mixed in. I look at my phone, it's like, no, that's my ringer. Because that would have been too much. Then I was thinking Tarantino took the score and created that for Kill Bill. So I'm glad I caught myself, because I would have misquoted some things tonight. But
Or sampled
anyway,
it.
fun fact there in my viewing last night of the
funny,
movie.
yeah.
So the film grossed, and this is old numbers, I'm sure, $39.8 million domestically on a $550,000 budget, with a total worldwide gross of $59.8 million. So
Jason,
that's insane.
Horror films do not get the respect
No.
that they deserve. I'm telling you, no other genre can you just put a few good actors in a creepy location with some decent music and pull off something fantastic that'll supersede budgets like this. No other genre does that.
No, it's hard to do. I mean, I do love these I call them claustrophobic movies, where it's like, we're just going to do this little thing, and horror works in that way. There's other movies that have done it, sure. Glengarry Glen Ross. Star-studded cast, but it's a David Mamet play, and they don't move too much. Of course, they didn't do this at the box office. It's modest. This thing went like bananas, okay? $500,000, which is a lot of money shooting this in 79. Sure. And then everyone's like, what are you doing? But my God, I wish I was I wish I was older then and I was an investor, a lead producer on this thing, because it made buku's money. So yes, they were in production on 2. And as we go through these, we should see if this trend continues. And I'm sure it did. At least, as Carl Gottlieb would say, all sequels make money until the last one. So there's 12. They've been banging money out. Printing
no, but you know
money.
what I just realized is that is as far as, geez, I lost my train of thought, but it was about the budget, I think. No, it's okay. I just lost my train of thought. I think I was going to mention about the budget. I forgot. Move along.
No, let's stay there. The budget. We'll find it. The budget.
Worldwide gross of $59 million.
I'm switching
It was
this
something
around.
about the budget, but whatever.
Well, what an incredible return on investment. I'm sure the investors were like, yeah, I'm back in. Let's roll it into 2.
Jason,
Okay, we're back.
Now
We're back.
I remember what I was
We're
going to
back.
say.
We're back.
We are back,
Okay.
folks. What I was going to say is that this franchise, if you think about it, okay, it struck gold, right? Gross of $39 million, budget of just under or just over $500,000, right? Okay, so you have that, but then what happens is you change your killers. Effectively, you're kind of reinventing the movie itself in the middle of its run, so you have to strike gold twice with 2 different killers in the same franchise.
That's true. You've killed off your killer, but you've smart enough to plant a seed like there's something going on here with Jason in the water, right? Yeah, because she's gone. Who else is going to come have revenge? The father, her other kids, sure, but they went away more in the Mike Myers way, like super being indestructible. I haven't seen 2 and 3 in so long, Sal. I've forgotten. I know what Jason turns into, but that's when you're really riding the coattails of Halloween. Michael Myers became just a force, right? He doesn't have a hockey mask. He has a turned inside out Captain Kirk mask.
Yes.
Right? So creepy, weird looking, a little deformed, and the crazy little hair. The hockey mask was a great, which we'll have to get into. Like, wow, it was a stroke of genius, and then they knew they could ride this supernatural element much further than a mom who's susceptible to injury.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
they had to reinvent it, and they did it.
You know what I foresee then, based on everything we've discussed tonight, is if there is a subsequent movie at some point, which there will be, of course, is an ultimate prequel which features Mr. Voorhees.
Mr. Voorhees.
This is where we
Mr.
learn.
Voorhees.
This is where we will learn about Jason's dad, which we haven't learned yet.
Man, who would be Mr. Voorhees? God, unknown or
Jared
someone
Leto.
creepy?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix, creepy. But I was thinking of someone more buff and scary.
A big guy.
You know, can't be The Rock. He's too playful.
Tom Hardy, buffed out,
Man,
Bane style.
You're going somewhere with this. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, well, a little older maybe.
Creepy, scary.
We got to go a little younger. We got to keep it younger.
Matt
well,
Damon.
look, who did a fantastic job as Bundy recently?
Oh yeah. I haven't seen it, but he's
from a High School
he's
Musical.
Quite good.
The High School
he's
Musical
quite
guy.
good.
He's good.
What's his name? Zac
Efron.
Zac Efron.
Yep, Zac Efron could play Papa Voorhees.
Yeah, good looking. Hey, ladies. Okay, anyway, we're taking it too far. We might cut some of this out. But yeah, a lot of things could happen. You know, this episode went longer than I thought because it's almost like we're doing a franchise volume 1 on Friday the 13th, but we didn't. We delved into the first movie because I can't commit to the entire franchise. I just think this first movie is really worth exploring, especially if you like this genre. And a movie from 1980 that really set the stage for a lot of things to come. It wasn't the original. It was not. But it came out at the right time. It filled that void. And I really love what it did. Because honestly, after Halloween, the second Halloween, I didn't like where that franchise went. And I don't think John Carpenter was like stewarding the ship either. Yeah. So that one went a little bonkers. And I think this one probably was outperforming it for some time. Not recently, because they have Jamie Lee Curtis, and it seems like Halloween's always kind of, reboot themselves, where this one is kind of dead on the vine right now. But anyway, that's what we should do.
There's been two. Jason, if you compare Halloween to Friday the 13th, then is you have an antagonist and a protagonist through line the whole way through, whereas
That's
Friday
true.
the 13th doesn't have that. You only have Jason the whole way through. The mom's killed off the first one. You only have Jason. If there were a primary nemesis maybe along the way, I don't know. I think maybe we would be talking. There would be more people talking about Friday the 13th
Probably
at this
true.
very moment because we were just only been relying on Jason, and Friday the 13th has no Jamie Lee Curtis.
However, all I know is I just finished this movie and Alice is alive. So that I'm going to delve into part 2 with that knowledge, and I'm going to see where it takes me. Again, I think there's a point where I just eject. I think I'm going to make it to the final chapter and bow out.
Well,
But-
Jason, I would ask anyone, and I say this for myself, any one of us should be able to commit to the first 3 movies of any franchise. The first
enough.
3, commit to the first 3. After that, you can bail if you need to. But I think the first 3 of any franchise will pretty much tell you everything you need to know.
True. If I can make it past, the first one, sure. Yeah, I think I agree. I never saw all the 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I did like the first one as a kid, so I don't know. Did
They
you
were
see
just
this?
talking about finally trying to release a Vanilla Ice action figure to coincide with the Teenage Mutant
Whoa.
Ninja Turtle action
Was
figure
he,
franchise.
was he
line.
in those?
Yeah, he was. He did Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go.
He did a song, but he's not.
He
in the
did a
movies.
song. He was on the stage, and yeah, the collectors are calling for a Vanilla Ice figure
Vanilla
from
Ice versus
TMNT.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like it.
That'll be fun.
All right, so that was a lot of fun to delve into Friday the 13th, 1980, just rewatched. Sal, anything else to add before we close out here?
I want to thank you, Jason, because actually what you've done tonight is you've given me a newfound respect for the Friday the 13th franchise. You know, it's like
Great.
I'm looking at it from a different angle now. I'm looking at it from a more adult perspective, from a 2023 perspective.
Nice.
We have a long legacy and saga of Friday the 13th. I think the original sets a wonderful tone. They did a great job. And I'm happy and honored that you decided to share this time with me. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you. And that's what we do here at Let's Talk Movies. So without further ado, please enjoy.
Friday the 13th.
So thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Movies podcast and the Let's Talk Movies YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving this show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform.
We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com.